Today, Donald Trump, who is going to be our next president, went on Twitter to personally attack one U.S. corporation, and in so doing, at least in the short term, apparently erased more than $1 billion of their value. And now the reasons why he might have done that, there are several. None of them look good. All of them should scare you about the future of America if he actually becomes the president. So it started with this tweet. Boeing is building a brand new 747 Air Force One for future presidents, but costs are out of control. More than $4 billion. Cancel order. I don't know what that means. That's a really weird way to end a tweet. And the $4 billion he just grabbed out of his ass. It's not actually in reference to anything in particular. But there he's indicating that we should cancel billions of dollars of contracts that are going to this particular corporation. He was asked about this, and here's a little video.
Well, the plane is totally out of control. It's going to be over $4 billion. It's for Air Force One program. And I think it's ridiculous. I think Boeing is doing a little bit of a number. We want Boeing to make a lot of money, but not that much money. Okay, thank you.
So when has he ever talked about a company like that they don't need to make that much money? The businessman president doesn't want them to make that much money.
So there's two things in that. First, the tweet's like he's at a restaurant and he's canceling an order for a cheesesteak. Okay.
Cancel order.
It's cheesesteak. What? It's $13. I know I can get it down at Pat's for $11. Cancel the order. Okay, baby, sad. Okay. Second of all, and a lot of conservatives did say this. They did warn you. The guy's not really conservative. He's just Trump. And so it's not conservative ideology at all to say that company's making too much money. Maybe the government should intervene and make sure they make less money. Yeah. That's about the least conservative thing I've ever heard.
Yeah. Well, don't worry. I don't think he actually believes it.
Yeah, I don't think he believes it either. Yeah. But we're going to show you why. I have a theory
so first off, I know that this is a fool's errand to continue to do this under a Donald Trump presidency, but I'm going to continue to try to fact check this shit. So he said $4 billion. Boeing says we are currently under contract for $170 million to help determine the capabilities of these complex military aircraft that serve the unique requirements of the President of the United States. According to Politico, the current Pentagon budget is for not one, but two planes, and that's $1.65 billion. Still an incredible amount of money, but 20% of what he said it was, he doesn't know and he doesn't care, but those are the actual numbers. Now, why did he do this? Why did he randomly at 5:52 a.m. start tweeting about the next Air Force One, planes that theoretically might not be built until he's almost not president or isn't president anymore, assuming he gets a second term? Why did he randomly think about that before 6 a.m.? There are a couple of explanations. Here's one. This was an article that came out apparently 22 minutes before his tweet. It was from the Tribune. Author Robert Reed had this quote: "The brain trust at Boeing, among the city's largest companies and a global aerospace and defense powerhouse, must cringe every time President-elect Donald Trump riffs on foreign policy, especially when it comes to dealing with China." And the article recounts a speech Boeing CEO Dennis Muhlenberg gave before the Illinois Manufacturers Association on Friday, in which he was mildly critical of Trump's plans both for the Export-Import Bank and more protectionist trade policies.
Okay, so first let me fact check within our fact check. It was 5:52 a.m. Pacific. To be fair to Trump, this is not one of his middle of the night tweets. He tweeted at 8:52 a.m. Eastern. Okay, so not that it makes much of a difference, but either way, it is 22 minutes after the Chicago Tribune article came out. So no, this is it. John solved it. There's no question in my mind about this. Okay, this is my opinion. Granted, okay, you can come to your own conclusion, but he's done this many times before. So we were wondering why he came out with a flag burning thing out of nowhere, and I came up with this theory, which is that actually it's a very savvy political move because you seem like you're protecting the flag. Liberals can't help but attack you because you're wrong on the constitutional matters. Then you go dirty liberals, attacking the flag, etc. No, it turns out he'd just seen a segment on Fox and Friends 20 minutes before that on the flag, and he got all worked up, and he went on the tweeter machine, and he was like, if you burn the flag, I'm going to kill you. didn't say I'm going to kill you, but he did say I'm going to take away your right
Yeah.
to be a citizen, which is unbelievable, right?
Some patriots would say that's worse.
And so in this case, he knucklehead read the Chicago Tribune article and got personally offended.
Yeah.
And by the way, let me give credit where credit is due. Again, most open-minded show in America, right? So Trump is actually right about the Export-Import Bank. It's total crony capitalism. It's the one issue that the Democrats are much worse than the Republicans on. Almost all the Democrats protect it. And that's why, and part of the reason is because they get the same corporate donor money, but also because the unions say, oh, no, I want you to do crony capitalism to the companies that employ our union guys. So the Democrats are in favor of the Export-Import Bank. Some principled conservatives are against it, and credit where credit is due. And Trump talked about abolishing it during the campaign. Now, I would like it if he did. My guess is he won't, but we'll see. So if on the substance of the policy, Trump is right, I think Boeing is wrong. Boeing's like, oh, I want my subsidies.
Well, they're also talking about his dealings with China and how he's starting conflicts with them.
You're right. And the CEO of Boeing, to be fair to him, is right that a trade war is not a great idea.
Because they want to sell planes to China.
Yeah, not just because it's a bad idea for Boeing, which I don't really care about, but it's a bad idea for, I just remembered my nephew works for Boeing. Okay, I should acknowledge that. Maybe I care about it a little bit, okay?
Yeah.
But trade war, of course, is bad for America, but it depends on the context, and you're not necessarily going to get into a trade war if you take a tougher negotiation stance with China or other countries. So on the policy, super open-minded on this particular issue for Trump, but on why he did the tweet, he's not writing a policy paper about this. And at 8:52 in the morning, somebody didn't walk in with like, hey, President-elect Trump, should we reconsider this random contract? You're a policy wonk. What do you think?
And the thing is, I don't think he randomly went to the Chicago Tribune at 8 a.m. I think he literally has some sort of like Google alert or some sort of RSS feed thing where when his name pops up in a long list of sources, he looks at it. I think he's like one of the future humans in WALL-E. He's sitting in his chair with his KFC and his Coca-Cola, and he's consuming things that shoot at his face. So SNL, he says it's unwatchable, but he can't stop watching it. Then Donald Trump pops up and he looks at the screen and then he drinks his soda again. That is all that he does, is consume stuff about himself. He's like a baby. Actually, babies don't do that. I don't know why I'm besmirching babies.
Sad. Okay, no, it's not an exaggeration. So if you don't know Trump's history, for decades now, what he will do is he would get the paper, and if there was any article written about him, he would take notes on the sideline of the article about wrong.
Wrong.
Okay. And he would shout at the
unreadable.
He would shout at the reporters.
Sarabies!
Okay. And then he would tell, if it's a story in the India Times, he would say,
Abhi ki bar, Trump, Sarkar.
Okay, anyway, seriously though, he would write notes. He's been doing this, and every reporter that's ever written a story about him will tell you this. And then he will wrap up the paper and mail it to them and send it to the reporter. And the reporter will get this thing like, wrong, I'm actually a genius. You're wrong about my wealth. It's tremendous, and you're an idiot.
And he traced his hand. When they say his small hands.
He did. He literally traced his hand. He's like, this is not a small hand, it's a large hand. I got no problems down there, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and you got to prove that's your hand, buddy. I don't know that you just bring in someone from the mailroom.
So he's doing the same thing, except he's going to be the most powerful man on earth. So he sees some Google alert on Trump in the Chicago Tribune. By the way, he's got to be really busy with those Google alerts these days.
Yeah,
Trump. Anyway, for whatever reason, this popped up on his screen, and it was thrown in his face, and he's like, me, not like Boeing. Boeing CEO says something mean about Trump. Me against Boeing.
Yeah.
Abhi ki bar, Trump, Sarkar.
There's so much you get with Young Turks membership. You get the full 2-hour show of the Young Turks every single day. It's commercial free. You get Aggressive Progressives. You get all the other network shows that we put together. What else? Post games, right? And other things. And hugs and kisses and rainbows. You know what?
Somebody go get a six-pack.
And let's all enjoy membership together. tytnetwork.com/join.